Welcome back.
Who gives a damn about me? Huh? Me? What? Me? Yeah, little old me. Myself and I live or die, laugh or cry. I'm all that I got.
Welcome to the part 2 of my design journey. If you haven't checked the first part, do check it out. This will be a continuation of it. And thanks for all the comments and feedback on the part 1, by the way. I heard there's a lot of lag. Please bear with me. I'm shooting this on a phone. I'll shift to one of these cameras lying around. There's a cable situation going on. I'm sorting that out. These two boxes are filled with cables and I never seem to find the exact one I'm looking for. And before I jump into part 2, I realized I missed showing something in part 1. I'll just quickly get to it. I actually wrote 3 articles. 2 about my 100 days of design challenge. I documented the progress, process, tools used, the kind people that helped me on the internet figure out some stuff. I mentioned all of that. So check it out if you're interested. And I wrote an article while I was doing my internship with Abhinav as well. I talked about how when you have a lot of side projects going on, it can be kind of detrimental. So do check it out if that topic interests you. Looks like I document a lot. It's like I work less and document more. But anyway, just jumping into part 2. Now it's 2019. And by this time, I already had an offer from a company called Extero through Campus Placements in my hand. And let's start this off with a flop story. The first thing that you can see is Swiggy design. Of course, I didn't get through. I was applying for an internship, a 6-month internship. I was actually planning that if I get this internship, I'll chuck all other opportunities and just focus on this. But that didn't happen. But I think there is merit in going through the case studies that I submitted. It was an interesting problem statement that they have put forward. I have qualified the case study round and a couple of interviews, and in the final round I think is where I didn't get through. I'll talk about the problem statement for a bit. So the scenario is far into the future. It is 2050, and in 2048 there was a huge climatic event which destroyed most of the cities, and most of the popular cities like California, New York and other parts of the world have been declared uninhabitable, and people are moving to Bangalore. So Bangalore is saturated at this point by 2050. And people are not coming out due to lack of transportation, so people are ordering in things more. Swiggy, a delivery giant at this point, has decided to launch ADVs, autonomous delivery vehicles, which basically deliver food or groceries to people without a delivery partner. So the problem statement was to design a control panel for a manager sitting in the Swiggy headquarters to see how these ADVs were working. So the problem statement had 2 parts: design a main home screen and manual intervention screens as well. What is manual intervention? Basically, while the autonomous delivery happens, if there are any error cases, if there are any weather conditions, and by the way, this is far into the future with harsh weather conditions, so that has to be taken into account as well. What does the software look like? How does this tool help the manager oversee all these deliveries happening smoothly? So I'll quickly jump into the case study I submitted. It was 2-part. They basically asked us to submit a case study and the design process deck as well. So I was slightly getting better at visuals given the internship and all other things that I was doing, and but still not yet there. So this is the dashboard that I've designed. As you can see, still very rudimentary. At that point I thought this was the shiz, but this is nowhere close to production. And look at those shadows, man. Shadows in a dashboard. Anyway, I talked about the home screen, talked about the different tabs involved. I talked about the different cases that can arise which require manual intervention, like the breakdown of an ADV. How do we deal with it? The case of a wrong delivery, how do we deal with that? And order not picked up, ADV injured pedestrians. With autonomous vehicles, that is a highly probable case. If not highly probable, highly sensitive. So I thought I'd address that too. I defined the decision structure as well. What's the event? What's the response? How does Swiggy have to deal with it? And how does this tool help in that process? And I also mentioned that interaction with the control panel might not be with mouses and trackpads anymore. It could be with voice or eye tracking technology. Folks, Vision Pro is coming in 2024, not 2050. I also talked about some business integration, won't get into it. Some basic design styles that I used, and that's it. I left this part of the case study crisp, just defined the screens and showed the visuals. And the design process deck is where I went in deeper. So I set the context about future tech with some artificial intelligence research I was already doing back then. I was totally interested in it. I was reading a lot of articles, so just slid that in. So this is a world building exercise I did. It was really, really fun. If you can pause and check it out if you're interested, but I'll highlight a few. I mentioned that we are already celebrating 2 years of harmony with some alien species, and how smartphones are obsolete, and how Elon Musk already colonized Mars and gearing up for further. So I talked about my approach, some scribbles, some random flowcharts, and I distilled down my problem statement to some basic questions and I started answering them one by one. I defined my stakeholders. I did some basic research as well. I defined the tech, what could it look like, what does it mean, how does the product work in that tech scenario. And it also made sense to define how an ADV would look like, because I'm designing a tool to control the ADVs. So I thought it would be helpful to define how an ADV would look like and what the features are. So define possible emergencies. So from these, I went ahead and designed my manual intervention screens. So I talked about the emergencies, role of a manager as well. So the manager is basically the user I'm designing this tool for. So what does that person do? What are his or her roles? I've defined all of that. So then I distilled everything to features that this control panel should have. Talked about inspirations, wireframes, 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 and final screens. So that's about it. So as I said, I didn't make it, but it was really, really fun working on this case study. And this happened in the final month of my college. By the way, I was actually 90% sure that I'll get this internship and I'll be working at Swiggy. And I also had another offer in hand apart from the college thing. Won't get into the details of it. But I was looking at 3 opportunities. Swiggy didn't happen. The other thing also, some internal reallocation resource thing happened in that company and couldn't go there. So I just joined the backup of my backup in my first job. So that was a bummer, but I was actually happy I'm getting to work on the field I'm interested in. So let's talk about my first job. What were the responsibilities, what actual products I worked on, and what I learned by the end of it. So this is B2B SaaS. It's going to be boring, but I'll be talking about it because B2B SaaS, although you're just looking at internal tools which never see the customer, it'll be just employees of the businesses you're selling to that will use it. But B2B SaaS, guys, brings a lot of money to the table. And the company I joined, Extero, I think they're valued over $1 billion right now. And their clientele was huge. It had Boeing, it had Fox News and all the children companies of Fox, Wells Fargo, some major banks, some major industrial companies. It was wide. So coming to the actual products I worked on. So Extero, as I mentioned, was into the legal tech space. I'll define it more through the product. So the first product I worked on, it was called Data Subject Access Request. In the US, where the privacy laws are actually mature, every company is mandated to have a portal where their users can come and request deletion or modification of their personal information in their systems. And Extero provides that particular software as a service to all these companies. And these are some of the screens that I've designed that I can show publicly. So this was the first product. And quickly moving to the second product, it is called Incident and Breach Response Management. Such boring names, but yeah, we call it IABM internally. It's also in the similar lines. Whenever a data breach happens in a company, the company is mandated to inform certain authorities and their users as well that this breach has occurred, and it has to have some steps in place to mitigate the loss that can occur from that breach. So this product is completely about that. So as a designer here, there is not much reinventing the wheel. You can expect how a basic dashboard will look like with basic tables, search boxes, text fields, etc. But the user experience has to be taken care of, and that's what I was responsible for, along with, of course, designing all these screens. And also for all the softwares we were designing, we had to make sure we were complaining. We were compliant with some requirements of accessibilities It was called 501 Compliance. This was a great learning experience for me. What this essentially means is that the color palettes should be accessible to everyone, even people with color blindness. The fonts and their color should be clear enough, and people should be able to use this without even a mouse. How does that work? Basically, even in YouTube, you can keep clicking on tab right now as you're watching this video, and it goes through all the clickable elements in this window. So that's what we had to make sure we did as well. So defining all those states. So it was a very end-to-end experience for me. Earlier, it was just some side projects where I designed some pretty shit and called it design. But this is where I got to know how development works, what their requirements are from design. And this is the first time I was experiencing all of this. So that's about my work there. And while I was working on these tools at office, I was also working on some side projects. The first thing was Uber Eats redesign. So of course this was totally unofficial. I took it up on the side. I observed some pain points and I thought I could propose some solutions and of course make a case study out of it. So I published that case study on Medium. It's a very, very long article. I don't know why I made it this long, but it also took a lot of time. It took about 4 to 5 months. Probably it wouldn't take so much if I was just focusing on this, but you know how side projects are. You work on it with crazy interest for a few weeks and then it goes for a toss for the next few weeks. So that's how it was going on. And if you actually see the Figma file, let me just jump into it. There are actually multiple versions. There were times where I came back to the designs after like a couple of weeks and I realized this was complete shit. What was I even thinking? So there was designs 1.0, 2.0, 3.0 and final screens and some screens for the presentation that I put out on Medium. And while I was at it, I thought I'll define the user experience for my Medium article reader as well. So I put a lot of efforts into defining the design language and how each screen is shown in the article as well. So this took a lot of time and this was actually fun, defining all the minor aspects of my case study. I'll drop a link to this case study here, you can go check it out. But this helped me a lot in refining my process. I got great positive feedback. But looking back, again, there are a lot of things I would change in this. I think the problems I addressed weren't real problems to the business probably. And I also got some really harsh critical feedback on it as well. It was on a live stream with Abhinav. Abhinav has invited me to a live stream and he was going through my case study and asking me questions like an interviewer. So guys, this bombed like crazy. It was a painful learning experience. First of all, it was live. It was the first time I was doing anything like that and I totally blanked out in most places. And there were some questions which I actually didn't have answers to. I was pretty confident while I was doing my case study and when I published it. But from the questions Abhinav asked, I realized I didn't think through a lot of things. Some basic things like back buttons or why is this important for the business? So yeah, this session ran for 1 hour 40 minutes. Please don't watch this. It was a public disaster. My internet was wonky. I was out of the call for most of the time, blanking out, had no answers, and I wasn't making sense most of the time. This was a really harsh wake-up call. Let's actually take a moment of silence for what happened here. Jesus. As you can imagine, this experience actually put me into another new learning journey where I was like, shit, I got to get my fundamentals right. So that's what I did for the next few months after that. And I actually never watched this video after it. Like I knew what went wrong in that video. I had the feedback in my mind, but I never went back and watched it. It was too embarrassing for me myself. Just before making this video yesterday, I decided to sit through it and it was excruciatingly painful to see me blank out like that in front of... It has 3.4k views by now. So guys, at least for this, hit that like button. Give me that dopamine. I'm putting out such a public embarrassment again out there right now. So just give me that dopamine at least, please. But that was the bad part about it where I sucked at presentation. But the case study itself got some really good feedback. There was this other design YouTuber. By the way, at this point, design YouTube was picking up. There were a lot of people talking about design. King Siddharth was one. He was then the lead designer at Headout. There was also, if I remember, Chetan KVS, design pilot, who was also making videos about product design. So I was also learning through all of these. And I've sent my portfolio for a review to King Siddharth as well. And he actually spent quite a lot of time, and he had really good things to say about the structure of the redesign, and he had some design feedback to give as well. So that was a really good experience. I actually still keep getting messages about this Uber Eats redesign, probably just because it is way too long. People think it's really detailed. It is detailed in ways, but the priorities weren't right. That's what I would say, looking back at this case study. So let's jump to the next side project. This was also in a similar space. This is a spider web. Guys, do you also think there's a spider problem in Bangalore? Do you think Spider-Man is here in Bangalore? That's such an absurd statement to say. He lives in New York, guys. So, the next project is called Home Foods. It was basically, again, a food app that me and another coder from the company I was working in decided to build. So there was this person in our backend team who used to run a food delivery business on the side. He used to take bulk orders from our colleagues on WhatsApp, send it to the folks back at home. They used to prepare all the meals necessary, and they used to come to our office by lunchtime. So me and another coder, we approached him telling him, hey, we are planning to design an app for this. So we took inputs from him. We basically had to design the app for two stakeholders, this person who was overseeing all of this, and for the rest of the people who wanted to place the order. So it was a very simple app, and given that I worked on Uber Eats redesign and gone through so many food delivery apps, it was not that big a deal. So, and again, this project didn't see the day of the light. By the time we were close to launching it, COVID hit, and you know what happened then. Again, I had so much fun working on this. We were designing it for a legit use case, and I also picked up Android Studio to work on some front-end screens. The person I was working with was a very helpful coder. He was teaching me how to code front-end on Android Studio, and that was really helpful. So this was our handoff file, basically our onboarding screens, daily menu, and how does the user journey look like for a person who's ordering, and for the person who's overseeing all these orders, basically the admin, how they can set menu, how they can set their delivery timings, and basically see the list of orders that they have to deliver. And there were also version 2 screens where we showed some analytics, basically oversolving stuff. So that was a fun project that we worked on for a while. We learned a lot doing it. And one minor thing that I want to mention here is I used to have major FOMO living in this city, Coimbatore. So I used to regularly take overnight buses for the weekends, go to Bangalore, attend a lot of design meetups, meet a lot of designers, know what they're working on, and come back, do my job in Coimbatore. And as I mentioned, online learning was also happening at a good rate for me. Lot of content on YouTube, lot of Medium articles again, lot of podcasts. So while traveling in my free time, I used to listen to all of these. And coming to the last segment of this video, this is my favorite part of my entire design journey, by the way. It's called creative coding. This is a new art form I discovered and started again 100 days of creative coding challenge for it. So this art form is basically you telling the computer what to draw through code. And because this is code, there is a lot of leverage. You can ask it to draw ellipses, rectangles, change colors over time, follow my mouse and keep drawing circles like this of different colors. And there is crazy shit you can do with this. This is also the time where I rediscovered my love for math. I finally understood what it's being used for, and the visuals of it made a lot of sense. It helped me understand the concepts even better now, and not just math, some physics concepts as well. Everything boils down to basic math eventually. And look at this shit, trippy as fuck, but all of it through code. So I used to really enjoy making all of this. And you can create terrains, 3D terrains. You can create scenes like this, music I added later. But this is basically an animation video that is written in code. And yeah, we didn't pay the electricity bill once, and the electricity board came and took away our fuse, so I drew that day. I explored fractal patterns. This is a huge rabbit hole in itself, the concept of it, and the visuals came out to be great. They were recursive functions, and one of the interesting things I was also exploring was audio visualizers. These things we see on YouTube videos where the visuals react to
Yeah,
audio.
you got it right in you. I picture you. I spent the day in the shade of a tree.
So yeah, this project again, I could not finish it. My last post was day 62. After that, I just left it. I lost interest. Some other priorities came up. So this was a really fun thing to do with code. And by the way, I used to learn code, JavaScript, search for syntaxes, do all of that. It used to take a lot of time to generate one of these, and until I got a hang of it. And even then, there used to be a lot of learning curve for every new thing that I wanted to do here. But guess what, folks? ChatGPT is here. I tried this again recently, and it becomes insanely simple. You don't even have to learn so much code. Let's actually try one. Now I'm going to ChatGPT. I'm asking it to write a P5.js code. I want bubbles popping out on mouse click. They have to jump in random directions across the screen. The screen edges are bounding boxes, and the bubbles change color with each bounce. Use a soft palette for the colors of the bubbles. Let's try this. So let me try and paste this in VS Code and see how it works. Where the fuck is it? So this is my index file. This is my sketch.js file. I was trying something earlier here. Cool. I hit save. I go to my index file and I open it on the web. Okay. You can actually see it. Now I'll tell ChatGPT some more specifications. That's great. Make the background black and increase the speed of the bubbles by 10x. Cool. I have the code, and I'll make one small change here. This time I'll change the size of my canvas to 1920 by 1080 to fit the whole screen. Let's see how that works. Let's go here and refresh. Something else is happening here. There is a trail that is appearing along with the bubbles. Remove it. I think it's just a simple code change, but ChatGPT is doing all the work anyway, so I won't worry about that. And let's change this again. Save, refresh. Oh yeah, we're there, baby. So this is it. With ChatGPT is even more simpler. I think you can talk about more complex shit to ChatGPT, and it'll generate the code for you. Put it on VS Code or whatever environment you're in, and you have an art form right in front of you. So that's it for this video, folks. Hope you've enjoyed. I'll be back with part 3 again. So keep an eye out, hit that subscribe button. Thanks for watching.